the best boxers in the world. They're doing damage to each other. They're coming forward. A lot of times people see a brawl, they think that's a good fight. And he drops him with a big right hand. Big right hand. He's in a lot of trouble. See if he can wither these last 20 seconds.
Got 20 seconds to go.
Marquez will come in for the choke on him.
Tries to get him turned. It won't take a lot. Marquez trying to finish the deal here. Remember, Casamayor has never been knocked out. He's down again, and that's it. It's over. Juan Manuel Marquez is the champion.
Yeah, 54th professional fight. 4 losses for him, and that includes his first pro fight, which he lost. Who knew at that point in time that he'd rise to this?
A real throwback fighter, you know, class, powerful, works hard, sets an incredible work rate. Dutchie, the fight was very close in the early going. Casamayor was landing with the straight left hand and was catching Marquez. Marquez made the adjustment, started catching Casamayor with the right hand. I mean, it was a very close tactical fight. But the work rate of this guy is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, he doesn't stop. He just keeps coming forward. And he doesn't seem to be bothered by the fact that he fights southpaws. As you can see right here, he's able to solution them with left hooks. He's able to come across with the right hand. I mean, they don't seem to bother him at all. He's able to solve them. He landed the right hand, and as the fight wore on, he started to take control. There, the right hand started landing more and more, and he started breaking Casamayor down. And I mean, he just, you know, fighters should take certain guys and look at them as an example. Juan Manuel Marquez is one of those guys that you should take an example, you fighters out there, of what it means to work, be a throwback fighter, and work hard, because Juan Manuel Marquez is a great, great champion.
You know what? He is a trainer's dream, and in case you missed this fight, you can see it on TSN. We're going to replay it. It is Joel Casamayor and Juan Manuel Marquez. That is September the 25th. You can catch it right here on TSN, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That is 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time. You know who's not a trainer's dream? Sergio Mora. He came into his rematch with Vernon Forrest, 2 pounds overweight. Now, Forrest wouldn't even look at him prior to this fight. When they got into the ring, he was all over him.
Yeah, he knew he made a mistake underestimating him the first time, but he didn't underestimate him this time. And Vernon Forrest put on a clinic, but you have to wonder, where was Sergio Mora? I mean, he looked uninterested. I have to think that the weight struggle was a big problem for him, because Forrest just took it to him and Mora offered absolutely no resistance. Forrest said that's the difference between a champion and a contender.
Good play on words. Forrest regains his belt with a unanimous decision win. Mora's first defeat in 23 fights. Now, this is Timothy Bradley making the first defense of the WBC light welterweight title against Edner Cherry.
And Bradley looked good in this one, taking on a tough opponent in Edner Cherry. But, boy, the overall boxing skills and work rate of Desert Storm Bradley really carried the day. You'll see a short right, quick right hand over the top here. There it is. Lands right on the chin. Good power shot. And, you know, Bradley caused the surprise by beating Junior Witter to gain the title, and now in his first defense looked good, looked strong. He's sitting back, Dutchie, and biding his time, waiting for a big money fight at 140 pounds. These two guys went at it right to the very end, though. But, boy, Bradley just worked hard, jigging the body, using his boxing skills, his speed, and he just dominated this fight by unanimous decision.
Yeah, it was a convincing win for him, a successful title defense, and as you had mentioned, Edner Cherry's a pretty good boxer, too, so good for Bradley. That was a good victory for him.
Yeah.
How do you explain the thing, though, with Sergio Mora? He comes in, he's a little bit overweight, couldn't make the weight. He looked flat, though. In the first fight between himself and
he was
Vernon
inspired.
Forrest, he wanted the title.
Yeah, he was
This
inspired.
one, it was like he was not strong enough to carry it.
I don't know. I mean, obviously the weight loss certainly had something to do with it, because coming in overweight, you have to think if he was 2 pounds overweight at the time of the weigh-in, he must have been even more than that leading up to the weigh-in, and that was as close as he could get to it. So he seemed to struggle, and you could see that he wasn't inspired. And the punch stat numbers told the story. You look at the number of punches he threw in the first fight and what he landed as compared to the second one. It wasn't even close. This wasn't even the same guy who showed up. Uninspired, no determination. He just stood in there, basically said, I got 12 rounds, 36 minutes. I'm going to hand my title back to Vernon Forrest. And give credit, though, to Forrest on his part, because he went out there and he prepared this time. He didn't take Mora lightly like the first time when he was a 6-1 favorite. He went out there and prepared and showed just how good and how skilled he is.
No, you're right, though,
Yeah.
and I love what he said, too. This is what a champ
like that,
does.
This is the difference between a champion and a contender.
Which was a pretty good play
Yeah,
on
for
words.
sure.
All right, we have to take a short break. We're going to maintain this sort of weight theme when we come back. He ain't heavy. Well, yeah, he is. Joan Guzman's title shot goes out the window at the weigh-in. You're watching In This Corner. Welcome back to the show. The lightweight title fight between Nate Campbell and Joan Guzman was canceled this weekend under rather bizarre circumstances. Guzman said he did not feel well enough to fight due to a health situation attributed to attempting to make weight. Now, the commission doctor confirmed that Guzman was severely dehydrated, Rusty, and was unable to go. Another source said that Guzman was back and forth all day on Saturday before finally making the decision himself not to fight.
That's sad. Listen to this. First, there was the revolving door of trainers. Then the conditions and fines about making weight. Now, Oscar De La Hoya and Manny Pacquiao are fighting over fans. Mexican fans, to be more precise, Dutchie. Former De La Hoya trainer and current Pacquiao trainer, Freddie Roach, says he thinks most Mexican fans will be cheering for Pacquiao come December.
What?
Claiming that Mexican Americans have always supported the Golden Boy, but that the true Mexicans will be cheering for the Pac-Man. Golden Boy Promotions Vice President Eric Gomez disagrees and predicted the entire crowd at the MGM Grand on December 6th will be solidly behind De La Hoya.
I don't know about the entire crowd. There's going to be a few Filipino fans there. Now, fans in Canada are going to get another chance to see the King. Viewers' Choice Canada will carry the much-anticipated October 4th showdown between the unbeaten IBF middleweight champion King Arthur Abraham and top contender Raul Marquez. No word yet on the cost of the pay-per-view event. Check your local listings.
And Dutchie, Senator Baby Joe, former #1 heavyweight contender Joe Messi, won the Democratic primary for New York State Senate last week. Messi, who has shed the baby nickname while campaigning, took 53% of the vote. Messi is 36-0 as a pro and hopes to remain undefeated in the political arena as well.
You know what? I'd rather see him in the political ring rather than in the boxing ring with his history. You know what? Good for him.
I've got some more news for you.
Let's hear it.
It was just announced, and you heard it here. K2 Promotions, you know, the Klitschko brothers, they won the purse bid to host the upcoming Vladimir Klitschko-Povetkin fight. They outbid Sauerland Promotions by $5 million. They offered up over $13 million for the fight, so that's the next one you're going to see, brother. You heard it right here.
All right, more highlights for you. Junior welterweight action. This is Victor Ortiz against Roberto Arrieta. Ortiz simply superior in this fight to his competition.
Did he ever look good, Dutchie? Look at that clean, sharp left hand, classic southpaw style, straight down the middle, lands right on the chin. Arrieta was game. I mean, he kept getting back up, but he just had no answer. Look how Ortiz keeps those hands nice and high, and when he throws, he executes perfect. Textbook punches. Jay Nady was watching this closely, and I mean, there was just too much. Look at the power underneath to the body. Too much from Ortiz. He looks absolutely devastating in this one. We're going to remember that name because you're going to see this kid for some time to come. He was happy, and brother, he can fight.
He won the NABO belt with that victory. Like I said, it was not even close. I don't know if Arrieta even threw a punch. Former world title challenger Danny Perez taking on Julio Garcia.
And Perez looked good in this one. I mean, he just came to fight. Garcia just couldn't hold this guy off, and Perez just kept working. Garcia, you have to think, is tired at this stage in his career, and he's only 21 years of age, turned pro when he was 15, and has something like 44 professional fights. I mean, Perez just looked good in this one and took it all the way, one-on-one, just about every round. That's
yeah, nobody should turn pro at the age of 15. Junior welterweight Lucas Mathis, 22-0, all but one versus the knockout, taking on Rogelio Castaneda. That's a lot of pop, Punchy.
Yeah, it is a lot of pop. And you know what? This ended with some controversy because you'll wait. There what appeared to be the shot, which opens up this huge cut over his right eye. And they go back, they're waiting. It happened under 4 rounds. They determined the fight was a no contest, Dutchie. So that was a little bit controversial, you know, but I guess they'll get it on again.
You see that from time to time, though, although we looked at the video and there certainly looked like there was no clash of heads, that it was clean.
Yes, which means that if the fight, the ruling is if it's caused by an accidental headbutt and you've not gone to 4 rounds, it's declared a no contest. If you go more than 4 rounds and the fight is stopped due to an accidental headbutt, they go to the scorecards. Well, in this case, they didn't determine it to be an accidental. They determined to be an accidental, and it was wasn't. It was a punch. If you get stopped as a result of a punch, that should be a TKO win.
No, and that guy's stopped a lot of people so far, and I'm sure he's going to continue to stop more as his career rolls along. We have to roll along. Still ahead, you win some, you lose some. Our Outstanding 8 looks at rematch redemption. You're watching In This Corner. 27 years ago, this week in boxing, Punchy, it was Tommy Hearns, Ray Leonard. They meet for the first time in the showdown.
What a classic showdown. And early in the fight, it plays out the form. Leonard's boxing, moving, staying away from Hearns. But then he hurts Hearns, and the tide turns. It's Hearns who becomes the boxer. Leonard becomes the aggressor, and Hearns is winning when Angelo Dundee says his famous words right there. "You're blowing it, kid. You're blowing it." Leonard comes on and stops Tommy in the 14th round of a classic fight. If you haven't seen it, watch it again. This was a great one, Dutchie.
Yeah, you can see fights like this each and every day on ESPN Classic. Not only the middleweights, we've got the lesser divisions, the heavyweights. It's boxing every day on ESPN Classic. You know, revenge can be a powerful motivator. And as we saw earlier in the show, Vernon Forrest avenged his loss to Sergio Mora, and that is the basis of this week's Outstanding 8. You ready to go, Rusty? Here's number 8.
The Williams-Quintana fights. After shocking pundits to capture the welterweight title, Dutchie, Paul Williams was shocked himself by underdog Carlos Quintana. The rematch proved much different, as Williams showed how devastating he can be with a brutal first-round KO.
Yeah, what a difference between the first and the second fight. It was like night and day. Lucky number 7.
The Lewis McCall fights. In his first reign as champion, Lewis was shocked by the short, explosive right hand of McCall in the second round. Lewis had to wait 2.5 years for revenge, but he got it, Dutchie, with a 5th-round TKO.
Yeah, that fight was sad, though, as Oliver McCall ended up crying. He quit. Number 6.
The Corrales-Castillo fight. In one of the greatest fights in boxing history, Diego Corrales came back from the brink of defeat to stop Castillo. In the return, however, Castillo, over the weight limit, knocked Corrales out in 4 rounds, Dutchie.
Yeah, their bouts absolutely classic. Number 5.
The Jones-Griffin fights. Roy Jones saw his precious undefeated record erased with a DQ loss to Montel Griffin. With Griffin boasting about the win, Jones turned the tables in the return match and destroyed Griffin with a brutal first-round knockout.
That lunging left that he landed, it was over. Number 4.
The Lewis-Rockman fights. In a shocking upset again, Hasim Rockman knocked out Lennox Lewis with a single right hand. Lewis, however, will return the favor to prove the first time was a fluke with a crushing 4th-round KO.
That's one thing about Lennox. He always avenged his losses.
Convincingly.
Number 3.
The Robinson-Fulmer fight. Gene Fulmer shocked the boxing world with a unanimous 15-round decision to capture Robinson's middleweight title. The return, however, was much different, as Robinson exploded one of the best left hooks in history to regain the crown with a 1-punch KO in the 5th.
Even on the old footage, that hurts. Number 2.
The Lewis-Schmeling fights, Dutchie, after being knocked out in 12 rounds by the powerful right hand of Schmeling. The Brown Bomber, with the weight of the world on his shoulders, would knock Schmeling out in 1 round in the most destructive display in boxing history.
And Rusty, revenge so sweet. Who's number 1?
The Patterson-Johansson fights. In an unexpected shocker, Ingemar Johansson's hammer of 4 separates Floyd Patterson from his senses and his title with a brutal 3rd-round KO. In the return, however, Patterson makes boxing history by becoming the first man to ever regain the heavyweight crown.
Russ Anber's Outstanding 8 is brought to you by the fresh, great taste of Arby's. One bite will have you saying, "I'm thinking Arby's."
A time now for Rusty's Soapbox. Although I was joking last week, it should be called Rusty's Lunchbox because I watched him eat 3 sandwiches at lunchtime, and it's a good thing you don't have to make weight, but that is your topic.
It is the topic, Dutchie. Over 25 years ago, a brave young Korean named Dooku Kim was knocked out in the 14th round in his bid for Ray Mancini's lightweight title. Sadly, Kim would die 4 days later. In his death, it was determined that the intensity of the fight, coupled with making weight on the same day, caused serious dehydration and contributed to his death. The Kim tragedy brought on reforms in the boxing world, which are in place today. So in an attempt to protect fighters and allow them a safe rehydration time, boxing weigh-ins were moved to the day before. While this has indeed protected fighters against the dangers of dehydration, it has thrown weight classes into turmoil. Middleweights come in fighting at the light heavyweight limit, and lightweights are now welterweights. And most recently, some fighters don't even come in and weight at all. These safeguards have not only protected the fighters, but in fact have reduced the stress of making weight. Fighters can now make the extra effort knowing they have a full 24 hours or more to replenish. It is with this thought in mind that I am at a loss to explain the failure by Joan Guzman to make his contracted weight and ultimately cause a cancellation of his world title fight, or by Sergio Mora to inexplicably need 2 extra hours to shed a 2-pound excess. In recent memory, other championship fighters like Jose Luis Castillo, among others, have failed miserably at making a contracted weight. This blatant irresponsibility not only threatens the event in question, but ultimately puts in question the credibility of the sport. World champions and world-class contenders have always expected respect and responsibility from promoters, networks, and fans alike. Fighters crave the opportunity for the mega fight and the exposure and the dollars that come with such an event. Millions are spent, millions are generated, and there are a fortunate few fighters who share in that wealth. Is it too much to ask a fighter to live up to a few contractual obligations, the most basic one being respect the weight you signed to fight at? Dutch?
Well said, Russ. Well said. When we come back, we'll answer all your questions. It is Russ's final flurry. We'll talk Vitaly and more. Welcome back to the show, and if you want more Russ, all you have to do is go to tsn.ca. Russ, you are everywhere. You can go to tsn.ca/boxing. You can take a look at his blog. You can submit questions for Final Flurry. You can look at the podcast as well. You are everywhere.
Dutchie, we have a whole segment in the show because of our fans. Final Flurry is because of them, and we love your questions, so make sure you keep sending them in.
All right, very appropriately
Absolutely.
enough, we move on to Final Flurry right now. Let's get after it. There's the bell. Ding, ding. First question comes from Bruce. He goes, we do not need a trilogy. The Latin snake was exposed as the Latin fake. We don't want to see Vernon Forrest and Sergio Mora again because the same thing would happen in the third and final fight that we just witnessed.
You know what? I can't recall a fight, actually. Oh, I mean, we've been a few. We did this in Outstanding 8, but where the guy just wasn't the same. I don't know who this guy was who showed up against Vernon Forrest. Vernon Forrest came prepared this time, but Mora was nowhere near this. I think Mora, if he has any hopes of getting himself back into a rematch with Forrest, is going to have to come up with some pretty good wins, but he looked entirely uninspired, Dutchie.
Okay, next one comes from Kenny V in Saskatchewan. He wants to know, he said, we're just a couple of weeks from the return of Vitaly Klitschko to boxing.
Yeah.
Should we care?
Champion emeritus.
Right.
Yeah.
Should we care? Can he still be a legitimate champion?
Dutchie, right now with the state of the heavyweight division, shouldn't we care about anybody who has any semblance of talent who comes back? I mean, why not?
I don't know.
It's going to create some interest. I can't remember a time in boxing when this division has been so poor, like so lacking of interest. Vitaly Klitschko, you know, I mean, the guy can fight. He's exciting when he fights.
Is he?
Yeah, sure he is. Absolutely. I think he's exciting when he fights.
Yeah, but sometimes he looks like Vladimir. Sometimes he looks like Vitaly. You never.
Well,
you don't really know.
He's never looked like Vladimir in the chin department.
No, that's true too.
Yeah.
Next question comes from Joe in Victoria, BC. Rumor has it that Miguel Cotto is going to climb back into the ring with Antonio Margarito sometime in the summer of 2009. What will Cotto have to adjust so that he's successful this time around?
Perhaps bring a baseball bat to the ring. That might help. I don't know what the poor guy can do. I mean,
that's good training right there.
Yeah,
that's the Anber method.
Yeah, there it is. Bring a bat, crack him at the weigh-in, you know, because you know what? And you have to think about this. Miguel Cotto fought a technically perfect fight. I mean, what can you improve on in perfection? Strategy-wise, I mean, if you had to really nitpick, you'd say, okay, maybe he stays inside a little bit more and absorbs a little more punishment and fights on the inside more. But I mean, when Margarito was getting to him, he was hurting him. I'll tell you what, I'm not sure that there's something Cotto can do to make up the size difference, to make up the intensity, to make up the power. And when Cotto hit him with his Sunday best right on, boom! Nothing happened. I mean, punches that were crushing his opposition before, nothing happened. Dutch, I don't know what he can do better than that.
I thought you said he could push him off a little bit, stand his ground. What about Hatton and Malignaggi? This next question, is this fight up for grabs? Perhaps a slight nod to Malignaggi.
You know what? I don't know. I think this could be an interesting fight. Malignaggi has already made noise saying that he hopes that they referee the fight properly, so they hope Hatton's not dirty. We're going to have time to talk about that.
Yeah, indeed we will. That's going to do it for this edition of In This Corner. A reminder, make sure you tune in September the 23rd. We'll have all your highlights and more. 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 8:30 p.m. Pacific Time. Thanks for watching, folks.
Russ Anber's Clothing by Pellegrino Castronovo.